No, Mr. Sarkozy, while he's enjoying the comfort of a lovely woman, he's having a go at Ireland. I believe I've been told that whereas he's criticising and wants us to give up our 12% corporation tax, very few companies in France actually pay 30%. The majority actually can whittle it down to about 8%. And this is terribly wrong. Now, one of the things about our immigration which came up earlier, I hear 1,000 people, highly educated, is leaving our shores every week. I had 2 canvassers at my door today, and I asked them, they were going on a little bit of rattle and twiddle and hum and all that. I said, do you realise that there's 1,000 people leaving our shores every week, highly educated? And I asked them a question, how much does it cost to bring a child from the cradle to a graduate stage? And they said they were not from Fine Gael, they were not from Labour. They said, what's that got to do with this election? I said it cost an estimated $500,000. And if you multiply that by the total number of people who have immigrated, it's a massive amount of money. Now, if all those people who have immigrated was not able to immigrate, and they were still in this country, what has happened in Tunisia and what's happened in Egypt would look like a bun fight compared to what would happen in Ireland if all our people were still here. Thank you very much.
Okay. Answer those 2 questions, please.
Well, I refer to the issue of President Sarkozy's comments, and especially the 12.5% corporation tax. For me, and for Ireland, and for those involved here, this would represent a massive breach of trust, there's no doubt about that. And you are right, when you take out the exemptions that apply to other countries, some of them pay less than 12.5%, and you're spot on in respect of France. In regard to the question about the one-off housing and the EPA and the European Commission, the position here is that there needs to be a coming together of the EPA and the Department of the Environment. Now, I know that Deputy Feehan and Deputy Naughton, together with MEP Jim Higgins, have been out at the European Commission about this, and that's what needs to be done. I think it's fair to say that within reason, you instinctively know, whether a dwelling house should be built in location X or not. We have this all along the western seaboard from Donegal down, where you're in sight of mountain, river, lake or sea, and obviously it's a difficulty. But I do think that within reason, it should be possible to call together the EPA and the Department of the Environment and hammer out what the implications of the European Commission directive are. And these things are all negotiable. They won't work in every case, but at least you get a process and a decision-making process that actually works. But I refer to Nora's question down here about children in crisis. This is a very sensitive issue. And Deputy Alan Shatter from our own party was intensely involved in bringing forward a whole series of initiatives in regard to children in crisis, children in care, the issue of the scandalous abuse cases of children around the country that have been highlighted, and the unfortunate and tragic deaths of a number of children that have been highlighted as well. And from point zero, through the work of the All-Party Committee, in fairness, they did do a great deal of good work about children's rights to be enshrined in a referendum. The Fine Gael party promoted that very strongly, to the point where the All-Party Committee agreed on a wording to be put to the people by way of referendum. Now, when that wording was produced, it then had to be assessed. We raised it in the Dáil on umpteen occasions, and prior to the election, the Attorney General did give advice to the government that altered that wording in a way that is not acceptable to the children's rights groups. I met with the children's rights groups just before the election was called, and they are of the view that you do not need to start again at the very beginning. We can take it from where the All-Party Committee did its work and have a situation between that and the advice of the Attorney General, which should be able to be put to the people in the presidential election in the middle of November. So from that point of view, you'll have the presidential election, and on the same day the children's rights groups feel that it should be possible to be able to have the children's rights referendum and have the bill published and proper discussion about it, because there will be arguments on both sides of that before then. John McCartan raised about the taxation issue, and I just want you to understand, John, that insofar as we're concerned, it is our drive, and we're very different from other parties in this regard. We want to have budgets fairer, we want to have taxes as low as possible, we want to have high growth and a strong economy. That's the only way we're going to trade our way and develop our way out of this economic situation. It's not going to be easy. As I'm standing here in the bush tonight, I don't really know whether or not there are other black holes in the banks, because as you know, banks said they weren't paying bonuses to people. They told that to the Oireachtas Committee, and yet it was discovered subsequently that they were. I would hope that that's not the case, and if it is to be the case, then obviously that's another serious situation. So what we would like to see is the wind down and the splitting up and the break up and the end of Anglo-Irish Bank. We'd like to see Allied Irish Bank, which is now owned by the state, probably sold on. We'd like to see Bank of Ireland back in private ownership and able to do its private banking, and it's in a position to get there with some difficulty, I think. And then another element with that would be a new banking situation involving, in my view, outside investment, which is there. We've met with a number of people who have serious funds to invest in the EBS and what remains of other banks, so you'd have a competitive situation in the country here. So insofar as the tax is concerned, we want to keep them as low as possible, as fair as possible. We'll get into the development of high growth. I think that deals with all of this.
Okay, thanks, Enda. Now, I'm going to take 4 last questions. The light is getting away. So, down on my left, 2 people there.
Excuse me, I think it's fair to
Yeah.
come here speakers there.
Chairman.
Yeah. Okay, on the left.
The next one will be
Gareth.
John Winters. No, agriculture wasn't mentioned here tonight, and in a county like Leitrim, where we are here tonight, the Edgeworth Common, the money from agriculture keeps most business running. What is Enda say on the future CAP negotiations, and the World Trade Deal, which could affect this country badly, and also the tax exemptions for the transfer of farmers in the future, farms to younger farmers in the future? Thank you.
Okay, I think over this side here. And over on your left then. Yeah, next.
My name is Andrew McHugh from Longford. I'm a farmer and a member of the IFA. All along the Shannon we have suffered problems with flooding over the past number of years, and towns here like Carrick and Longford, Ballinasloe, Athlone, Athleague have all had serious problems with flooding. There are so many agencies involved in the Shannon, and all of them are competing, and all of them can stop each other from doing work. As recently as last week, I know Mr. Darcy from Waterways Ireland said he would like to see the levels of the lakes actually raised during the winter. I want to know, what are you going to do? Will you give the Office of Public Works, who have the lead role in flood management, more power to tell Waterways Ireland to keep the levels on the lakes at a proper level, at a lower level? Also the National Parks and Wildlife, quickly, the river between Lough Ree and Lough Derg is seriously impeded, and National Parks and Wildlife are stopping any work being done. So once again we're going to end up with more houses, more towns and more farms flooded. What are you going to do to resolve that situation?
Okay, thank you. Gareth, just on the
You've spoken long about abolishing the Shannon. You have spoken about replacing the oversight of the Dáil with a stronger committee system. Now, tonight you've asked for a trust, and at the basis of trust has to be transparency. And at the moment, there is no freedom of information provision whatsoever for any committee in the Oireachtas, or indeed for any citizen to get any access to any document from any committee or any other form of group of the Oireachtas at all. You said that you'll loosen up the freedom of information laws. How far are you willing to go with that? How much access are you willing to give the people of this country to the workings of the political system that operate almost completely behind closed doors? At the moment, at least with the Shannon, there's TV cameras on them. But the committees, I'm involved in a group called Atheist Ireland. We've tried to access stuff on the education bill that's going through at the moment. And we've been refused at every hand's turn. And it's that way with any attempt we've ever made to get any access to Dáil committee documents. Are you going to really loosen it up? Are you going to really give us freedom of information and true transparency? Thank you.
Okay, that person beside you just...
Kun stop to Enda fáilte road go chunda litrama bhí mé leabhart leat níos luaithe heol mé riamhfos thugat agus heolta riamhfos de raise agus bhí mé leabhart feature scríomh thugam ar an iPhone sníomhtar ná an fada áil so Misha Vian. Okay, so on Keshtogum Cheleshin Gael, the question I have is in regard to the Irish language. I would say that the only reason anyone in this group did language was because they were because they had to. So Stoke Shannon Tain for August. This is the only incentive for a long time due to lack of political motivation towards a country learning its own language. So I noticed that a lot of the primary schools and secondary schools are finding it extremely difficult to teach the language for whatever reason that is, except only the Gael school. So the question is, agus buine se leis an ceist atá ann an rud atá tusa rá, tá do rá go dhéanamh gura tú deara leis an Gaeilge éigentach that you'll put an end to compulsory Irish. You won't put an end to compulsory maths or compulsory English, but I don't understand why, if you're trying to promote mathematics, you're not going to put an end to compulsory maths. But if you're trying to promote Gaeilge, you want to put an end to compulsory Gaeilge. And it is the only incentive in this country at present for the entire country to learn it. So, Shinna Kesh Tagumward.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can we take some of those there? The CAP reform is coming up. As you're aware, the groups are already forming in a European sense to deal with this. And as you know, the next CAP reform is going to be different than the last one, because there's no co-decision making between the Parliament and the Council. The existing European Parliament has quite a number of new members from the new eastern countries, and many of them have a very different perspective on whether or not you should have a common agricultural policy in the first place, and if so, to what extent the budget should be subdivided in the way that they might feel appropriate. Obviously, the single payment issue is a big issue here in Ireland, and this is going to require, as I say, wearing the national jersey. And we have supported the government going out of office on this issue at meetings in Europe. It's going to come to a head over the next 15 to 18 months, and obviously it's something that's going to have to be fought very hard for and negotiated for. I feel that it's, as quotas are going to go inside a couple of years, the young farmers are already lining up for the possibility of future investment in whatever sector they're involved in. Given the growth of the world population, given Ireland's reputation as a first-class food producer, given the possibility of further processing jobs down the line, this is something that's of such importance to us. When I see the European Court of Auditors saying that it wasn't necessary to actually have to do away with the Irish sugar beet industry, which had direct implications for 4,000 jobs from Carlow down to Mallow, and with many thousands of others in indirect employment. That's something that I want to look at in the context of what it is possible, if possible, in the context of a European contribution from sugar beet. The WTO actually chaired those series of meetings back at the end of 1996 in Singapore, involving whatever it was 180 countries, and these things can get very complex between the different regimes from around the world.